we do Sarah's feedback from the envisioning session, which I think was fantastic. Do we agree? Yeah. Just before we do that, I want to give an opportunity for the CEO of the Wildlife Trust just to say a few words. Now, I find Craig, sorry to embarrass you, Craig, but I find Craig quite inspirational, to be honest. And last week he took all the chairs and CEOs of all the different wildlife trusts across the Federation, across Paris, to see the really amazing urban greening work that they're doing there. I'm not going to go into detail now because we haven't got time. Ask me about it afterwards. But we call it seeing is believing, and the chance to be there on the ground and see these conservation projects that are really working, really making a difference. It brings me back to the MWT office with so much inspiration and desire to carry on and do what we do. So it gives me great pleasure to give them an opportunity just to say a few words on behalf of the Wildlife Trust. Craig Bennett.
Graham, thank you very much, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here these few days. I've had a fantastic time talking with many of you over the last 2-3 days, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm inspired by the networking that I see is going on. So the next few minutes, I just want to say a couple of things, which one is really about the power of networks and actually how stronger we can be when we work together. And I'll do that really by talking about the Wildlife Trusts. And secondly, just give a few of my own reflections around this issue around corporate partnerships. So first of all, my job is to talk about the Wildlife Trust as a whole, as a collection. And it's fantastic there's so many Wildlife Trusts here, absolutely fantastic. Those of you who are not Wildlife Trusts, you might think you know us, and you know the individual trusts, but you might not be so aware of how strong we are now as a collective, as a federation. So if I tell you now that there are 46 wildlife trusts across the UK, the Isle of Man and Ordney, and you'll be pleased to know I always have to add Isle of Man and Ordney onto the bit after the UK. 46 wildlife trusts, and many people will know their local wildlife trusts, as I said, and a small, medium-sized organisation. But actually the scale we now have, when you add it together, is absolutely astonishing. So if I tell you that across our 46 wildlife trusts, we now have collectively almost 1 million members across the UK. And in fact, by the way, that's grown really strongly in the last 5 years. We've added another 100,000 members in the last 5 years, which I quite enjoy pointing out is bigger than several of our political parties in the UK. In fact, that's more people than ever voted for Liz Truss to become Prime Minister, but that's another matter. We've also, our collective income amazingly has grown from about 150 million in 2020 to 270 million now. So really strong growth there. And I'm saying that not to kind of brag or anything like that, but I would say it's because of the power of networking, it's the power of working together. You've seen in these last 2-3 days what it's like when you meet someone else from another organisation similar to you, and apart from anything else, it's cathartic, isn't it? You kind of think, oh, the problems I'm experiencing, they're not unique to me after all. Everyone else is dealing with this. Or if you realise that another organisation has struggled with an issue you worked with before, actually you can learn from them and not have to reinvent the wheel. And I hope that at the Wildlife Trust we're increasingly feeling now we're learning from each other, we're having shared experiences. By being together, we are able to go to have conversations with the likes of Aviva and land a £38 million deal over 100 years, which you could never do as individual trusts work on our own, but we can as a federation. And again, when you add it up now, we're now 3,800 staff across the Wildlife Trust. It's astonishing, which actually means that collectively we're one of the world's largest conservation organisations when you put it together like that. And yet we're made up of small, locally run, autonomous, independent, proudly independent organisations in our own kind of territories. I passionately believe this is the future of, certainly of conservation organisations, but actually of many organisations. To be big and bold in what we want to achieve, we need to be rooted. In fact, if you take the word radical, the Greek roots of that word, radical, actually are rooted. And the more radical you want to be in the change you want to see in the world, the more rooted you have to be in local communities and of and from a particular place to drive that change. And I think the power of networks and the power of federations is enormous in that. And so one thing I'd invite you all to think about here is it's amazing to see this meeting coming together. But you know, where does this grouping of inter-island organisations go long term in the future? You know, is there ways in which you can work more together, learn from each other, particularly in a digital age? It's easier than ever before. is to swap information, learn from each other, build that camaraderie, and feel the sense of common purpose as we move forward. So I'd really encourage you to think more about that, and we as the Wildlife Trust will be thrilled to be with you on that journey in one way or another. The only other thing I wanted to add is just these reflections about corporate partnerships and so on, because a lot of my career, I've often wrestled with this issue. Some of you might know, before I was Chief Executive of Wildlife Trust, I was Chief Executive at Friends of the Earth. Even earlier in my career, I was running big campaigns against big nasty companies. At other points in my career, I've worked with companies and very much brought big companies together to advocate, say, for climate legislation and so on. So I've seen it from all sides of the debate. And now I kind of lecture at business schools and things like that. For me, I think there's three principles that I've learned about this over the years as how, as NGOs, as charities, we wrestle with how to do corporate partnerships right, that I just share with you, and you can take it or leave it. The thing that we often worry about when we're thinking about engaging in corporate partnerships is we know the world needs to change. We know business needs to change. All of us, the way we live our lives, the way our societies are wired, the way our economies are wired, does need to change. We do need system change if we're going to learn to live fairly and well within environmental limits and in harmony with nature. And that means what we don't want to be doing and what really we worry about doing in perhaps having partnerships with business is we don't want to kind of legitimize carrying on with unsustainable business as usual. That's the concern. We want to see the big change. So for me, the trick there is when we're working with companies, there's never going to be any company that's squeaky clean. By the way, there's not ever going to be a charity that's squeaky clean. We've all got our own issues as well. We all know that. But the thing to do is if you can identify the companies, the partners that you want to work with that are actually up for the big, bold change, and by working with them, they're saying themselves that they don't want to carry on with unsustainable business as usual. They want to drive the change themselves. Then that's always good for a fit partnership. The reason we were so comfortable working with Aviva is because they very clearly had these really bold net zero targets for 2040, and actually they had a long history of being a leader in the finance sector around sustainability issues. And so that felt like a really good fit. And so as long as a company is not saying to you, let's work together, but actually basically we just want we just want a nice green tinge around us to make us look better, but we'll carry on doing everything as we've normally done. I think that's the thing to watch. If you can work together in really good partnership to drive the change and try and solve these issues, that's brilliant. And we had some brilliant examples earlier I loved that partnership between Sodexo and WWF that was talked about. That feels like a really important one that's struggling with these long-term issues and thinking how to change it. So I think that's great. I think the other thing I would recommend is actually partnering on specific projects or outcomes or programs rather than partnering just between the two organisations. Because actually what that means is if you try and partner just between the two organisations, it gives the impression that each other is sort of like is a big broad endorsement around as a whole, but actually partnering on specific outcomes, no one can have such a problem with that. So we partner as Wildlife Trust. We partner with organisations to partner with corporations to deliver specific outcomes. That makes it much easier than. I don't see it happening much nowadays anywhere as it happens. But 20 years ago there were charities partnering with companies just in a big partnership, almost without an outcome defined around it, and I think that caused problems. But the third thing I'd say, and this is where I would say the magic really happens, is when you can develop such deep relationship between your organisation and companies to actually start thinking, how do we change the rules of the game here? Some of the best moments of my career is when I've walked into Downing Street alongside corporate chief executives together to say the law needs to change. We both agree that things need to change here. Walked into Downing Street saying, here's companies, here's NGOs, all agreeing we need the Climate Change Act, or we need particular measures to promote renewable energy, or we need efforts from government in partnership with business and NGOs to drive change into the food system. And when you start building those deep relationships, those deep partnerships that really are about driving long-term system change, then we really do start to get the change we need. So thank you so much for inviting me to be here these few days. I've absolutely loved it and really looking forward to the rest of this afternoon as well. Thank you very much.
I'm doing. Right, thanks very much, Craig. So I'd like to invite Sarah back up just to give some feedback on the envisioning session, which I think was wonderful. So Sarah.
First question, Graham. Exactly how long have I got?
-5 minutes.
Right, great. Perfect. So as we went through lunch, we transitioned halfway through because we're adaptable. That's what we do here. And each table instead started thinking about their action plans for some of these solutions. So what I'd like to do is grab some mics and come round to you. Can someone wave at me if they got some action plan through their table planning? Yay! So let's start with Simon.
Great. So we were looking at education, Nature Day. That's sort of where we started, and actually one of the key things we were picking out was a key theme for the past 3 days has been citizen science and how it's been the lifeblood of conservation. It's just it's been really clear like how special that is, and we started by actually talking. Felicity actually talked about there was a questionnaire. It sounded like a science-based review of our coastlines by the primary schools, and there was a day where all the primary schools were on the coastline and together walked around, like in total, like the whole coastline, and it just that's kind of evolved to there's like adopted areas around the island that the primary schools have, and linking that up would actually mean that we can do that again. Like we can do these scientific studies starting with the primary schools, and actually this whole education plan was looking at how we it's very clearly how we get the next the next citizen scientists going through. So like the next thing was looking at the secondary school. There was conversations about how there's like in O levels and A levels they had biological excursions and actually like drawing what's around the island, and it's just a step further from like primary school start, linking it into secondary schools, getting them thinking of areas like Doom Glen with the mushroom yesterday. Like I've never seen so many mushrooms in the island, and that was one day. Getting the secondary schools still interested, and then like finally working with like UCM and tackling that 18 to 25 gap where people stop caring. It seems like it. What does this look like? I little think myself because we didn't get quite. What would that look like? What could UCM working with sustainable charities look like? That could be something like my idea was to go back to the Alderney talk and say like we could actually start looking at species around the island that are growing or declining and seeing the ones that are lasting if they're by fresh water. How can we help that? How can we grow that? And just getting more citizen science. That's the quote for me for the whole conference is citizen science is the lifeblood of conservation. So thank you very much.
Brilliant, Simon. Wow. There was a hand up at the back. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. We actually chose the same project. So we went in a slightly different way, though. So we were talking more about how we could make it work best and reach as many people as we could. And so we took this Earth Day or Nature Day, which I kind of suggested we do on Earth Day to tie it all in with everything else that goes on around the world, and invite families in and invite the primary schools around the island to do their own projects on this specific day. So some of the specific actions that we had written down were things like providing suggested lists of activities and encouraging more young children to participate and get excited through our own networks, our own families already, and start off those little and then some of the bigger ideas we had were along the lines of pestering our governor and our ministers to mandate this Nature Day. And also, our lovely Simon said that he was going to raise it at the next board meeting for Max Wildlife Trust. So, those were our options.
Fantastic. Well done, table over there. Alex, both looking mildly worried at me. I know you didn't have much time. Did anything come out of the conversations that you guys had?
I must have, a lot of our table has migrated away. So we didn't get anything specific, but I was just going to jump on Simon's idea of the children and the beaches and having that sort of like specific beach stewardship for maybe each school. I just think that's like a really lovely idea, and maybe something like that already exists, but that would just create such like a sense of ownership and connection for students from such a young age. So it kind of reminds me of one of the community projects I work with in this garden. Each school had a raised bed which they looked after, and I guess a beach is like a larger raised bed with different plants. I don't know, but yeah, that was a really lovely idea. I think that was very cool.
And sand castles are much easier than mud castles, so yeah. Liz, did you want to talk about your other idea that came up?
A new idea emerged on our table in conversation, which was to develop the ethical and sustainable finance and to start conversations on the island about how we can invest better and more sustainably. And the idea of perhaps a fair where people could come together with the companies and learn more about what the options are. A side shoot of that is introducing young people to the idea that they are also party to this because they have pension schemes and what their pension schemes might be doing, and encourage them to think about where that money is going from and whether it aligns with their values. So it's all about matching money to values. And our first step is to go back to our Manx Nature Alliance, which already has brings together the conservation organisations on the island, and then for that to perhaps be the platform and start the initiative.
Fantastic, brilliant, love. Have any other encouraging hands at me? Or would everyone look to? Oh, one over there. That's fantastic. And then this will be the last one so that Graham doesn't fight me off the stage.
Thank you, Graham. We spent a bit too long because we'd all moved around in introducing ourselves, but we were talking about the active communities to stop burning oil, and this is a bit of a personal reflection just on the way the conversation went. But some people were raising things, oh, I wish there was a so-and-so, and then on the table there were people going, oh, well, that's coming, and what have you. So this was things like transition from oil in homes to maybe just HVO as a step change, and then we now know Ellen Fuels are looking at that with the Manx government. So what we thought, well, what I'm thinking is that the Manx Wildlife Trust has a very trusted position in the Manx psyche, and most Manx people probably support the idea of protecting and enhancing the biodiversity here, but not everybody realises the causal links. So maybe there's a platform for Manx Wildlife Trust to signpost and make available information that could just broaden the reach of some of these things which are already happening and enable them to grow.
Fantastic. Now I get to say a bit. Firstly, thank you so much for bearing with the chaos of that workshop. It's always a little bit funny to try and get everyone to run around the room. But I hope that you've felt the massive value of the people in this room, the ideas that you all have, and then importantly, sharing them with one another, coming together as communities to build communities. Thank you so much. As this was designed, this is now not supposed to end here. So if any of those conversations want to carry on after today, please do make sure that they happen. Go and find people who said something interesting, grab them, make them give you their email address and or LinkedIn. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of all of this. Thank you very much for your time. Garamaya.
Do you want to do that? Can I just ask our panel to come to the stage? So Hannah Simons, Dominic Wall, Alice Watson, Catherine Wensink, can you just come and take your places on there? While they're doing that, I've just got to make a couple of announcements. First of all, Karen, our lovely timekeeper, has asked me to let you all know that we have a small kiosk shop in Douglas Sea Terminal. She's going to open up tomorrow from 9 till 4. So pop in and have a look at some of the wares that we've got. She's also going to have a happy morning. It's more than an hour. Happy morning. Where she'll be giving 10% discount to anyone with a locked and wool French lip bracelet. So basically anyone who's been to this conference. So if you're still around tomorrow, do pop into the C terminal, see Karen in the shop there. Also, just to let you know, if you've enjoyed this event, if you enjoyed this conference, there's another one coming up, the UK Overseas Territories Conservation Forum, an online conference which is taking place between the 13th and 16th of October. If you want details, go to www.ukotcf.org.uk. That's www.ukotcf.org.uk. And you'll be able to book on there, and I'll certainly be going. It's a really good event to get involved with. Right, that's that. I need to give you guys the microphone. So this is the bit where I try and do an impression of Evan Davis. Yep, that's it. So, no, for legal reasons, we're not calling it Dragon's Den. This is the thing that I'm really excited about, because this is an opportunity for some of the projects, some of the people here at this event to come and talk about their work, talk about their projects, and talk about things that they'd like to try, talk about new projects, and basically pitch into these guys, the dragons, the dragonflies, the friendly business people, our wonderful panel, with a chance to win a £2,000 seed fund or a Kickstarter fund. Thank you, you're getting better at this. But it's not about the money, as I said this morning. This is about the opportunity for us to come up here and find shared language between businesses and conservationists, find those shared purposes that Jonathan spoke about this morning, that mean we can come together around these projects that are really going to achieve something for people and nature. So that's why I'm really excited about this session. So we have a really good panel for you, and I'm hoping you've sat where your place names are so that you're in order from left to right. We have, and do you know what? I'm not. Is it Hannah Simons or Simmons? Simons, I was saying it right. Hannah Simons, Head of Sustainability, we've heard from already this morning, Sustainable Markets Advisory at Lloyds Bank Corporate Markets. Hannah joined LBCM in 2023 as Head of Sustainability, where she supports their clients to build sustainable financing solutions relevant to their individual needs. She also works closely with colleagues across the wider Lloyds Banking Group on the delivery of their own sustainability objectives. Hannah recently expanded her role to take on responsibility for sustainability advisory for institutional clients. And Hannah also joined from Schroders, where she was Head of Sustainability Strategy. And earlier in her career, she worked at BlackRock, PIMCO and Schroders, supporting institutional investors in designing bespoke investment solutions aligned to their long-term objectives. Dominic Wall, we've also heard from this morning. He's manager at Deloitte's Global Sustainability Reporting and Insurance Readiness Team, and a non-executive board member, along with myself, at the UNESCO Biosphere Isle of Man board. He's very passionate about helping organisations create a net zero and nature positive future. We both sit on the Sustainable Finance Initiative Working Group, and we're currently writing a white paper around Isle of Man carbon and nature credits, which we're hoping to submit to government before the Sustainable Finance event later this year. Dominic also recently won the Jeff Isle of Man 30 Under 30 Award for Sustainability. We also have on our esteemed panel Alice Watson, who is UNESCO Biosphere Isle of Man Youth Representative. Alice is a training advocate with Cailin Wild. Is that right? Cailin Wild. I'm doing everything wrong today. Sorry. You're supposed to be nice to immigrants, you know. She's one of the newest youth representatives for the world's only whole nation biosphere reserve. I might have said that already. She's a graduate of the University of Law at Liverpool. Alice is also a Masters in Law from the University of Manchester. So thank you very much for joining us, Alice. And finally, last but not least, we have Catherine Wensink. Am I getting that right? Good. Executive Director of the UK Overseas Territories Conservation Forum. Catherine's a stalwart of the IIEM. Catherine has a BSc in Zoology from Queen Mary College, University of London, and an MSc in Conservation Biology from Manchester Metropolitan University. Catherine has worked with partners across the UK Overseas Territories and Crown Dependencies with the UKOTCF since 2007. And one of her roles is to maintain this network, bringing conservation practitioners together at working groups and meetings, and co-designing, resourcing and implementing projects. So she's perfect to be on this panel. She's currently undertaking a PhD on area-based conservation. So can we have a round of applause for our panel, please? So I need to be careful not to build the pressure up too much, because I know some of our pitchers, our presenters today have not done this sort of thing before, so please give them a warm welcome when we call them up. They're going to get 5 minutes to present their idea to the panel. They then get 5 minutes Q&A from the panel, and that's it. So 10 minutes to get their idea across. We've got 7, which we're going to go through, and then at the end of this session, we will have a break, a coffee break. And the judging panel will go away and decide on how they want to allocate that £2,000 prize fund. So it might be all to one winner, or it might be split between 2 winners, or it might be a large bulk of it to one winner and then a smaller part to a runner-up. Something, it's entirely up to them, and it's really down to the pitchers making them understand, speaking the language of business, making them understand what it is they're going to achieve, finding that shared purpose, and really capturing their imagination. And then we've got Catherine to make sure that it's still got conservation purpose in there as well. So without further ado, I'm glad to say that we're getting back on track now. I would like to invite Tim Earle to come up and speak about the Alderney Bird Observatory. So please put your hands together for Tim.
I could have, yes, please. Yeah, I could have done with 2 minutes warning before I came up here. I normally follow the stripper. Good afternoon. Of anybody qualified to be here, it's me. I have a foot in many of the islands that are represented here. I was born in Guernsey and lived most of my life there. I moved here 13 years ago, and I've had 13 enjoyable years on the Isle of Man. I founded the Alderney Bird Observatory, and wait for it, I was conceived in Jersey. I've never ever said that in public before. Please don't repeat it. My parents had their honeymoon there just after World War II, so I tell you how long I've been around. I was known as the father of Guernsey conservation. A lovely title. I wish I still had it. I have to say, in the 50-odd years that I've been involved in conservation, I feel deeply that we failed. My generation have failed. I see the things that have happened in those 50 years, and I think, how could it happen on my watch? What have we done wrong? And I'll explain it now. In the early days, it was easy to be in conservation. You had a good argument, and that was it. We set up the Silby Nature Reserve in Guernsey, the Rue de Bergers Nature Reserve, the Claremar Nature Reserve from ordinary farm fields, which is now a Ramsar site. Imagine the thrill. It makes my hair tingle just to tell you that to set up a nature reserve that is finally designated as a Ramsar site is something very special. So it was easy. I went to the States of Guernsey and I said, look, you've got to review the shooting legislation. It's crazy. All these birds are getting shot left, right, and centre. And I dropped in front of them on their table a dead teal. And they saw this tiny little thing, because teals are not big, and thought, he's right. 1 man can shoot it, 100 people can watch it. And they automatically passed legislation to protect all wildfowl in the Channel, in the bailiwick of Guernsey. So some easy successes, but we hit a roadblock. We ran across developers and government that came up with a big problem. They wanted data. Soppy arguments were not good enough for them. They wanted hard data, and we didn't have it. And it was a big problem. So it was not just us, it was nationally as well. At that time, the BTO took off with all the research that it did, and now that's an organisation that's feeding huge amounts of data into organisations like the Wildlife Trusts and the RSPB so that they've got ammunition to use when they're trying to change things. One of the greatest sources of data in bird watching are bird observatories. And you may have wondered why there's nobody here from the Calf of Man. Why is there somebody from the Calf of Man? What? Why aren't you out ringing? This is the height of the bird migration, and it's very difficult for people to say, oh no, I'm going to turn my back on a common rose finch seen on the Calf today. Did you know that? I was a journalist, trust me. So the Alderney Bird Observatory gathers information. We knew it was a great place for birds. I'd been leading tours there and taking people there for many, many years. We knew it was great for birds. And in 2015, a group of us set up the Alderney Bird Observatory. Since then, 120,000 birds have been caught and ringed. Many, many hundreds of hours have been spent doing surveys of a regular route around Alderney so that they maintain their bird observatory status. They used to be the last, and I think Lundy has now come on as a bird observatory as well. So my appeal to you today is for help in gathering data. We need every spring and every autumn an assistant to help the warden on the bird observatory. It costs us £1,000 per migration. My pitch is for £1,000 from you to fund the next migration, which will be next spring's migration. We need an assistant for that. However, my real pitch is for 5 years funding for an assistant spring and autumn. So that's £1,000 each year for 5 years. So please, may we have it?
Is this where? Hi, Tim.
Catherine?
Yeah. I love a panel and I love spending money, so this is great. I want to ask you, how will that involve young people? You started off by saying that they're the future. How will this involve young people?
It is very important for young people. Getting a job in ornithology is immensely difficult. It is immensely difficult. There's a huge demand for it. And one of the ways people do it is to work as volunteers with bird observatories. They're taught phenomenal skills. They're taught how to survey properly and come up with decent survey results. Some of them are taught to catch and ring birds. So for young people, getting experience is essential. A bird observatory assistant is a paid post. So that's usually the first step on that ladder into an ornithological career. And it's very, very difficult to get onto it. If we can have assistants that are paid for what they do, we don't have great funds in Alderney. We haven't got places we can tap into for funds. We're not part of the United Kingdom. We're not really part of Guernsey either. Our government governs 1,700 people. They can't raise a lot of money. So it is essential if we're going to open these opportunities for young people.
We talked earlier about all of the standards that companies are working towards. What would be the main purpose of the data? Because there's lots of, we know we need data from all our companies when we want to understand sustainability, but you're tagging and ringing and tagging.
Yeah, I understand it.
What will it help you understand better?
The data goes into a huge database run by the BTO. More than 1 million birds a year are ringed by the BTO. That goes into another database called URing, and that has vast numbers of data. This is citizen science. The wardens and the assistants are paid, but all the volunteers and so on, and the data itself is collected as raw data. It's citizen science. And then those data are then tapped into by the scientists that are looking at a huge range of things, bird mortality, bird populations, the routes of migration. All these sorts of things are tapped into by specialists who are looking for that sort of information. I'm not going to talk fast. I can't do it.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
My question was around the data as well, I guess, and you answered the repositories, but is there kind of I guess in terms of technology, do you know of any technology in terms of geospatial or drone technology that can be leveraged and that you could maybe reach out to those kind of companies to maybe streamline your volunteering efforts with technology in the future?
We do have modern technology. There's a thing called Motus that we're involved in that puts tiny little transmitters that can go even onto warblers, but they only have a 10-kilometre range. So they're monitored by stations all around Britain, and Alderney has got one of them. We raised the money from local companies. It was I think about 3,500 to get it off the ground. Once you put the tag on the bird, though, it can be picked up by any of the monitoring stations. So a bird with a tag that's put on in the Arctic, you can watch its progress as it passes all the different stations all the way down south. I'm trying to think what other modern technology we are using. We're certainly using new devices for putting nets high up into trees, for instance, whereas normally we can catch birds lower down. There are a range of things, but Motus is probably the main one that we're involved in.
Round of applause. So we deliberately keep these short because we know people in business don't have a lot of time. So that's why we're deliberately keeping them short. Right. So next, I would like to welcome up David Buck from Tyneshy, Growing for Good, produce with purpose.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm representing Tyneshy, and the actual true driver behind this project is a gentleman called Simon Beard, and unfortunately can't be here today because he's having to work. And we're ably supported by the Manx Wildlife Trust through Hannah, who's down the back there. I won't use the pointer. If she wants to wave, she can, tentatively. I became involved after being on the carbon literacy course, and I had an idea on the carbon literacy course and got pointed towards meeting Hannah. And I had an idea of where this project could be. And actually, she'd already been speaking to Simon, who'd actually already got this project off the ground. My idea was just very, very simple to create a people's orchard, but Simon had a much wider scope on what he really wanted to do. And with Hannah backing us up with the knowledge of what we can and what we can't do, then we've really sort of tried to progress it. Initially, we got funding through the Margin McGee Awards, which is through Max Telecom, and that enabled us to actually start the project off. But just to explain what Tyneshy is a school in Douglas in the Isle of Man, and it's a specialist school, and it supports children that are maybe having difficulties in school themselves, and it will take them out of that environment and put them somewhere where they can be more comfortable and can progress themselves and maybe shine, which is what the idea is. And if they can shine, they can go back into school. But actually what we're trying to do with them as well, or what Simon's trying to do, is to actually engage them into something a little bit different, so that when they leave the school, they've actually got a qualification that isn't actually school-driven normally, and the normal curriculum, but actually leads them to being able to go into a horticultural side of things. So, as I said on there, this is what the Tyneshy is. 2 seconds. So the pupils are those that struggle often with emotional regulation and engagement. We've been in class ourselves. I'm hoping that all of us have been to school, and we know that we'll have people that the actual, not necessarily they might not be into mathematics or something like that, so they're not engaged in maths, and so they'll actually miss about or something. They have other ideas of what they really want to do, but this isn't kind of what they are. But it doesn't really help the other pupils that are in the school. So taking them out of that environment actually allows them to flourish. So they're looking for an area where they can have safe environment for tailored support. And they'll benefit from training and knowledge and education that's going to actually benefit them in the long run. So where the project is now is that I originally thought of this piece of land where I could actually have this idea for a people's orchard. And then when I speak to Hannah, she says, well, it's actually already been thought of and what we can do with it. And so basically this is the Tarnishe piece of land there. It's near the University College Isle of Man, and the Tarnishe School is in between the land and the college. And as you can see, there's Centre 21 as well, which actually the land could be used to support them and their people. This piece of land here was originally fallow, and I think it's been fallow since I've been living on the Isle of Man for 25 years. And what we did was got funding through the Martin McGee Award, and we thought, well, we're going to put in some trees here, and we're going to put in some hedging down this side here, some goat willow down here, and some various other plants and things. But there's a lot more we can do. As you can see, this has actually already got some trees on it, but it looks like we've done nothing. There's nice. Ooh, thank you. So here we've actually got some apple trees, and down here we've got some cherry plum and pear trees. And the idea is that there's people on the Isle of Man who are less fortunate than others, and maybe they could come along and they could get fruit to support themselves. It's obviously very much a green side of things, so the people in the college can come and use it as a green place to learn. We've also thought that there's people who work at the homeless shelters and things, so the homeless shelters can come and get free fruit from here if necessary. There's not a lot at the moment, but obviously we need to do more on that side of things, which is kind of the avenue we come down from the support. So yeah, we thought that actually the land now, once we start to develop it, could be used by the University College Isle of Man. So you've got they can do outdoor learning for sustainability, ecological modules, vocational training, land management, therapeutic landscaping. They can actually work with the pupils from Tarnishe, working together and collaborate and see what projects they can come up with. I mean, the only thing that's actually stopping this side of things, I guess, is just your own imagination, because we've obviously got limited ideas of what we can do with it, but actually the students might have far better ideas than what we do. So therefore, on that side of things, that will strengthen inclusion and improve practical learning pathways. As I said, we're looking to grow produce. So in February 2025 this year, Hannah, myself and Simon were down there planting trees. And as you can see there, there's some of the things that we've been put in there. And then actually Simon's taken this to a stage further where he's actually got pupils now who are actually managing this landscape. And they're working towards getting qualifications that when they go to the workplace, they'll actually have something that they can actually show that this is what we've developed and this is something that I can actually use. Vision for the site is obviously, as I said, it's just what imagination says, but we're hoping that it's going to become a multi-use site. It doesn't have to be used by the pupils and those that are looking for the fruit, but actually the people from the college, if they need a nice space during to have a break, they can go there.
Hello, that was a great talk. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, and I may have missed this right at the beginning, but it's important to know. Would like to know who owns the land and what is your idea about adding value to biodiversity? What native trees are you thinking of planting? Things like that.
So the land itself is owned by the Department of Education, but it's been just fallow, like I said, ever since I've known. As I said, I've been here 25 years. So we've actually already got access to the site to use it for whatever the school decides, I guess. From sort of the ecological point of view, we're looking to have a wide, for example, the goat trees can be used by children to go in there and use your imagination. Like I say, any money that we get, we are getting some support once we decide to buy some more trees from the Isle of Man government, but they're limited to what you can actually put in from the trees point of view. But we're looking to have an area where the bees can get along. We're going to have some flower beds so that will encourage pollinators. And there's going to be a lot of native trees that will go in there as well. We'll need some native trees to support the actual orchard because we don't want the strong winds here to blow all the apples off or the pears or something like that. We've got an idea to put a pond in which will encourage water life. So you might get frogs in there, I don't know, water pokemon, anything else that will go in there. There was a temporary pond put in there and birds came along almost immediately. So actually in the summer, especially in the summer like today, having a pond where they've got somewhere where they can get water to drink, then that's actually really useful. We're looking to put hedging on the side because that enables bugs, flies, birds to flourish. We're hoping to get the Isle of Man College to get some of the people there to build bird boxes so they can actually go on the trees and encourage more wildlife. And then obviously you've got the people themselves who can actually then come in and enjoy the space.
I was just wondering how quickly some of those apple trees that look quite small will start producing. So when will your first harvest be?
There's actually apples on them this year. Some of the fruit trees haven't got the pears, plums, and the cherries haven't, but there was some apples on the apple trees this year.
Brilliant.
So, like I say, next year we would hope that the plums, the pears, would actually, and the cherries will actually come on board. And obviously the cherries will be available if the birds don't take them. But it's also the same as, for example, we're looking at the idea of having nut trees in there as well. So you could put in a walnut or something like that because they're quite good. They'll grow and they'll also provide support for the cherry trees and everything from stopping the wind onto them. Again, it's just our imagination might not be the best, and but somebody else might have better ideas on what we can do. And so, from our side of things, is that yes, there's so much we can do because we've got the land there, and then a small amount of money we can put in a hedgerow or something like that to support flies and birds and things, and provide some sort of barrier or whatever to getting onto the land. But we just want to be a space where everybody can actually come and enjoy, have tables and chairs, sit down with a family, have a picnic, but also enjoy the wildlife that actually is going to be brought into the area. Hope so. Yeah, go on.
As in like a carbon credit, say your plan, or well, can you use carbon credits and something like that?
There's no reason why not. I did some. I used AI to look at it and just give an idea on how many trees we would need to get a ton of carbon back. And I can't remember the figures, but that was one of the things I thought that actually it's very much at one with nature, at one with man. Man benefits from having a loving space, and nature benefits because the carbon that will be captured and the oxygen released through all these trees and plants and diverse nature of what we've got. And the other thing we're kind of looking to do is have an area so that throughout the whole year there'd be something of interest within the land. So that anybody at any time could come in there. Springtime will be the bulbs, and then there'll be the fruit trees. August time, obviously flowering trees, evergreens. I mean, again, it's just the limitations are our knowledge, really. Our knowledge. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks very much, David Bucks. Time machine. Fantastic. Next, I would like to invite to the stage from. Oh, I'll let you do it. From Manx BirdLife, their managing director, Alison Leonard.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Alison. I'm the managing director of Makepeace-Warne, as Greg just said, and I'm here to talk to you about Lang Ness. So Lang Ness, for those of you who don't know, down in the south of the island, is peninsula, and it is an incredibly important area for wildlife on the Isle of Man. It holds more designations than any other area of land on the island. It falls within the original Isle of Man Bird Sanctuary. It is a ASSI. It is an outstanding environment asset within the UNESCO Biosphere Core Area. And the areas around it, the sea and the foreshore, are also a marine nature reserve. The mosaic of habitats that this little bit of land supports is incredible, and the species. So on the peninsula, you have breeding raven, you have ringed plover, skylark, eider, gadwall, mallard, teal. I could go on and on and on. It actually supports over 200 of the 332 species that have been recorded, bird species recorded on the Isle of Man. And that includes 68 Schedule 1 species, 38 of the red listed species that we have, and 19 of the amber listed species. It's incredibly important for wintering birds as well, like shelduck, curlew, oystercatcher. It's the only place on the island that you're likely to see pale-bellied brown geese during the winter. And there's also species like chough and hen harrier. Team were down there last week doing a litter pick, and we had amazing views of hen harriers just floating over the salt marsh. But it's not just about birds, it's also the only place on the island, actually the only place in the British Isles that you will find the lesser mottled grasshopper, as well as many other invertebrate species. But it's not just natural heritage, there's a huge deal of cultural heritage as well. It's the site of an copper mine, which has left its mark on the area, including the engine room and the powder house, which is this sort of double-walled structure, which was designed to make sure that any explosions from the gunpowder that was stored there went up and not out. There's also the Herring Tower, which was designed by Thomas Brine, who also designed the original House of Keys in Castletown. So there's huge amounts of cultural heritage as well. Earlier this year, Max BirdLife, we were very privileged to be able to acquire over 60 acres of land on the peninsula. But we don't see ourselves as the owners, we see ourselves as the guardians and the stewards of the area. Along with other landowners on the peninsula, it's our responsibility to protect, manage and enhance this area in perpetuity for nature, but also for people. We see it as our job to educate people how special this site is and how their actions and what they do impact upon it, whether in a positive way or a negative way. So while we might have grander plans in the future with hides and all sorts of things, our aim at the moment is education, whether it's educating ourselves, what's there, what's on the peninsula, because we can't conserve, we can't protect what we don't know is there. But whether that's educating the other people who use the site, it is a very well used area by recreational users. So what I'm asking you to invest in, quite vague, but is the future of the site. We want to make sure that going forward, you can still go down there and see these big flocks of chough in the winter feeding on the seaweed. We want to make sure that you can still see the cute and fluffy chicks, the whole range of rarity birds that turn up in the winter on Stinky Dub. But we also want you to invest in the potential. It's a fantastic site, not just for wildlife, but also for people, as I said. It's very accessible for schools. It's not far from Douglas, so it's within catchment for a lot of schools. And it's also a really good place if you're not particularly mobile. You can bird watch from a car on this site. So if you can't get out and you can't move very far, you can still get out there and enjoy the nature. As with all of our projects at Manx BirdLife, we're in this for the long haul, but we are very much at the start of our story here, and it would be great if you, and anyone in the room actually, would like to come along with us. Thank you.
Starting to think this was a plant because that's the field trip I went on yesterday. So had a great afternoon. I know. Question I was going to ask was how are you going to facilitate people who maybe don't know what they're looking for when they're out there? I know that there's some signage, but on the other side, on the newer side, you've Guardians for. How are you going to help people if they're not guided by somebody? Is there any plans for that?
It's purely education, I say, whether that is signage. So during the summer months, yes, we have signage up there highlighting the importance of the breeding birds. One of the things we're hopefully going to do this winter is to put up new signage highlighting the importance of the wintering birds and see the impact that people walking their dogs have on the site. We do have an education manager within the team as well. So we very much see Anna's role as integral in this. She's taking schools out there. But it's just a big part of it's going to be spending time down there and talking to people and just having those conversations and getting that information out. We won't be able to stop everyone, but I'm a firm believer that lots of little things add up to a big win. So that's our plan.
I'm going to steal one of the ideas from Dominic's earlier question and just think about how could technology and AI and social media actually help spread that word. Have you thought about that?
Yes. So we are a very small team. So we've only got 5 members of staff, but we're growing. We have just renewed our website. If you haven't looked, please do. But it's very much an area we'd like to do that. Very much if we can't take people to nature, we want to take the nature to them. So we're investing in cameras that can link to our website. We have a drone pilot within the team who can go out and get us some amazing, not only amazing photographs, but also help us with some of those surveys to map the area so that we can manage it better. AI, that's an area that I'm not that great with, but I have people within the team who do. So yes, it's very much it's on our on our radar. That's what I'm trying to say.
Could I just ask a quick question? And yeah, I love that site. It's an awesome place to go walking. And I just so there's been a lot around education and signage and cameras, but are there any other priorities? If it wasn't just this funding, if you received further funding, what is the top 2 or 3 priorities for the site?
Our top priority for the site is immediate priority is to just establish what's there. It is a very well looked over site, but trying to gather all that information from all the different areas, it takes time, and that's what we're trying to do at the moment. It does boil down to education, and by education I don't just mean children, I mean everyone, the dog walkers, the people who go kite surfing, just getting them that message out that it is an incredibly important area with some species that you just don't see anywhere else on the island, and that everybody's actions down there does have an impact.
One more question. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Kevin McKilvey, from Jersey Marine Conservation, who's going to talk about Corporate Social Responsibility Initiative.
Well, good afternoon, dragons and dragonettes, and members of the kingdom. I'm Kevin McKilvey from Jersey Marine Conservation. At the back is my wife and wingman, and we run a charity which is a non-profit organization. We are all volunteers. And my pitch to you guys is through the corporate social responsibility. I get a number of inquiries about, well, how can we get involved? And of course, the one that comes up is a beach clean. And I say, no, we don't do beach cleans. What I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity that really is enjoyable, it's fun, it's meaningful, and that you're going to go away and really celebrate that with other people from your staff. We heard during the week that one of the big problems in corporates, and it's similar both in the Isle of Man and in Jersey, is this high staff turnover. And one of the things is that these people that are making up your teams, they've got a wide diversity of degrees. They're not necessarily finance. A lot of them are even marine biologists. And by doing something like this, it's really going to improve your working atmosphere, where people are thinking, well, those years that I spent at university doing my degree, well, maybe now I've got the chance to actually go back and revisit that, and at the same time do this job. So it's a kind of a win-win situation. So I'm going to just go on to the next slide, very close. So this is all about teamwork. It's your people working with us, and it does require a close-knit team. That was some of my colleagues in 1971 organising and jumping onto Snaefell here in the Isle of Man. And that's really what I'm about, is teamwork and actually motivating people and getting people along. Of course, everything really that we've talked about over the last 3 days is incorporated within what we're doing, these ideas of a cyclic process, where as we're carrying out this project, we're actually learning and trying to improve it, both from the corporate involvement and from the children that are involved as well. And it is about celebration, it's about enjoyment, and it is also about a meaningful education experience and celebrating. You know, we want the children to celebrate, really feel that they've done something very worthwhile. So I'm just going to give you, if I may, a little bit of a sampler, because what I've done is I've created a video that the corporates can actually have a look at, so that they can get an idea of what they're actually volunteering for and how they can perform a meaningful aspect of this activity. Would you mind just starting for us? Thanks ever so much. I'm just dipping into this. It is online.
Hi, I'm Kevin McElwee, and I'm the chairman of Jersey Marine Conservation. And here I am in this magnificent area next to the West Park swimming pool. And we have the causeway behind us, and at the back of that is the Elizabeth Castle. This is an amazingly interesting area, both from a marine conservation perspective and from a historical perspective as well. Located where it is, it's actually perfect for schools and community groups in the St Helier area to gain access to our wonderful marine environment. In a place like Jersey, there are a lot of children who, for one reason or another, actually never get to visit a beach. And what we would like to do is to encourage more schools, more youngsters to come out into these areas, which are full of exciting, challenging things to do and see. It gives youngsters the chance to understand a bit more about why our marine environment is special and why we need to protect it.
The Causeway BioBlitz tries to use the most effective ways of learning, and it's always about touching, getting to handle the creatures and to observe what they're actually doing. So it's the most effective way, really, that children can learn. So we want them to observe, we want them to ask questions, we want them to try and record in one way or another what they're seeing, whether they're sketching on a pad or they...
Okay, so I'm going to go quickly into this because I don't want to run out. But I think this was one of the things is, how do you get young people involved in data, gathering data? And that's part of the team's responsibility, is actually encouraging these children in one way or another to actually make a record of what they're doing, whether it's a drawing, poem, a story, whatever it is. But it's actually getting them to think about how important it is to not just experience this, but actually to record it so that they can use that information at later stages and get them on that ladder to get into conservation or into citizen science. Okay, so that's really what it's all about. And as far as the pitch is concerned, I think that this is a unique opportunity from a CSR perspective, because it's not just actually volunteering, but it's actually volunteering in a very constructive way. And how much am I asking for? How long is a piece of string? But, you know, £1,000, £500, you can see what we've been doing. I mean, one of the things is this video that we want to use so that the corporates get an idea of what they're actually doing before they arrive on site. And then they can communicate that as well. So that's really, really important. And then, of course, the other things is improving the material so that when the children are out actually finding things out, they've got things like booklets that they can use to reference and get more understanding of the creatures there. So that's my pitch. There's a lot more I could say, but what can you do in 5 minutes? So my little bit of Manx is Guramai Muru.
Kevin, thank you for that. I was just slightly confused. Is it about getting teams of businesses out, or is it about getting children out, or is it about getting the businesses out when the children are out? I wasn't quite sure that came across.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, my apologies if I didn't make that quite clear. It's about the children, if we're going to get them out into these areas, need people to be out there with them. And that is a challenge, is volunteers. Because, you know, a lot of people will happily volunteer, but during the week, that's not so easy. So what I'm doing is suggesting an idea whereby the CSR groups can come out. I mean, we're right next to the business sector. Literally within 5 minutes, they're out there. So they're meeting the children with me. They're going out and they're manning each of these different parts of the course that the children are going round. So yes, we need to pitch it to the children. And again, the corporates can help with this. in terms of communicating with the schools, getting more schools involved. Prior to this, I ran a very successful program, which was the Touch Tank project, which was through the Butterfield Bank. And we engaged with every school on the island. And so Butterfield was a name in every household. So it was a win-win again. You know, it's like, what a fantastic job the corporate is doing, and all the children are gaining from it as well. So it kind of all goes together, Catherine. I hope that's answered that question. And again, I'm sorry if I didn't really make that point clear.
Thank you. That has helped me as well. That would have been my question originally, Catherine. Thank you. How do you sort of you talked about asking the children to document and evidence. Have you thought about how you might be able to actually use that to then enhance biodiversity?
Yeah, I mean, while we're actually out doing that, my team are getting a better idea of what the creatures are within that area. So we are actually building up a long-term database based on that experience. So that's going to be very useful. And Tim earlier in the week talked about the this state of nature report, and all of this information is feeding into it. I mean, my organization, we've created many thousands and thousands of data records now, and that's formed a basis for the Marine Spatial Plan and everything really that the government have actually been doing. So, you know, we're quietly working along there and giving them all that data information that they really need to underlie the reports and everything that they're creating.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Very much. Thank you, Kevin. Right, our fifth pitch is Sarah Mercer from Earthscope. From footprints to pathways, empowering grassroots action for a thriving Isle of Man. Sarah.
Hello again, it's me. Have my watch, but please do ring bells at me as well. Okay. So I've got my different hat on now. I'm now the co-founder of Earthscope. That's who I'm representing today. And we are the award-winning social enterprise on a mission to place nature at the core of decision-making throughout society. Starting here on the Isle of Man, there's lots of islands in this room, so I'll come and chat to you later. At Earthscope, we deliver transformational training that inspires meaningful action for climate and nature. But training is just the first step. To create lasting impact, we need systems that help people to turn that awareness into action. And together we can co-create all of these tools and resources. Oh, this is moving for me. My video is working. We were having a crisis with this earlier. I just wanted to cover the sort of situation that we're in. We spent, as Earthscope, the last 2 years talking to people across the Isle of Man about climate action. And overwhelmingly, we found that people care massively. And that's backed up by the research done that found that 76% of Manx residents think that climate change is an important issue. But the questions that came up time and time again were, we don't know what to do with that. And we don't have the resources, time, money, or skills. We also know that businesses across the Isle of Man and the islands are looking to support their communities further, who are truly dedicated to making our islands wonderful places to live. So we've developed 2 initiatives directly to address these issues, weaving together that idea of knowledge, support, community, and business. The first is the video that you saw going there, which may or may not work now that I've messed with it. Oh no. Which is a digital platform that empowers individuals, communities, and businesses to take action through locally tailored solutions, filterable by cost, time, complexity, and the type of impact that you can have. So they're suitable for each individual who engages with the platform. Each solution then contains an explanation and an act, connect, and learn function to allow people to choose how they want to use this hub based on their own preference of action. Long term, we'd like to help people to find their top 3 actions using quizzes and questionnaires, and by making these actions easy to see, understand, and specific to the islands that they're based in, here for the Isle of Man, then people can find their way into sustainability in a way that suits them best, meaning more long-term engagement with action. The second initiative I want to talk about is the community fund, and currently named the Pitch and Plate, but really open to other names. This has been inspired by lots of people in the room, so thank you, you know who you are. I want you to imagine a night out where your dinner, your music, your vote all help shape the future of the Isle of Man or the islands you're on. That is the idea behind Pitch and Plate. So here's how it works. You buy a ticket, you get a meal made of delicious local ingredients, you hear some fantastic live local music, and the chance to hear 5 brilliant community projects pitch their ideas. At the end of the night, you vote, and the money from your ticket goes straight into the winning project. Sounds a bit like today, doesn't it? Topped up by Earthscope's own community fund as part of our social enterprise status, and contributions from local businesses. I'll look at you all here, who want to contribute further to projects and find this an easy way to find them. It's very simple, very community, very focused, lots of food, and the projects that are being pitched all will align with UNESCO Bioscope principles. That's the sort of rule for getting in for a pitch. It makes giving back fun. It also connects people, so it's not just about getting money from one place to the other, but also people from one place to the other. And if it goes well, then we really hope to make these regular events across the island, connecting businesses with projects. Together, all of these initiatives close the loop between knowledge to action. They create visibility, they build trust, and they deliver measurable outcomes, all aligned with the Isle of Man Biosphere's goals and your business sustainability ambitions. So we're really looking both for the Dragon's money, thank you very much, and also any businesses in the community who'd like to support either of these projects. Thank you so much for your time. Go Remind.
I'll start. I completely get the second one. So just on the first one, how are you going to be able to track if people actually go through with it? Because it's often very easy to say we care, but sometimes actually the action is, following through can be more difficult.
For sure. So at this stage, we can't. That's not what we want to do initially, is just bring that together. All of these are just names. We haven't done the research behind because we need the resources to do so. What we would look for in the future is that there are already apps in existence that can track measurable outcomes. We wouldn't look to reinvent the wheel. We'd very much like to partner with them. We already are in touch with 2 of them, but that's a sort of future plan. So yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, was that a real picture from like an experiment? 'Cause that looks like a great Friday night.
Doesn't it? Yeah, this is from the Nkrunyuk, I think. Yeah, this is from Nkrunyuk, which is the Manx Celtic festival that goes on for a week. And this is a picture from 2 years ago, and they're all fantastic. And in Noah Bakehouse, which is that way in Douglas. And it's incredible, good fun.
And you talked about how that would have music and maybe performances. How would you kind of incorporate sort of nature and biodiversity into an evening like that? Maybe quite difficult, but have you got any thoughts on that?
Doing them outside would be a really fun plan. My original plan was to do them outside, and then October happened, or is about to happen. So I thought maybe we'd start inside and then we'll go outside. But it would be a fantastic opportunity to do. But also partnering specifically with organisations who can deliver local food. So we're tying into that sustainable farming practices. So there's plenty of organisations who can do that. Also local performers, and it's about culture as well. So Biosphere isn't just environment, it's culture, environment and economy. This is bringing all 3 of those elements together. So those cultural aspects. If there's any bands that sing about nature on the Isle of Man, please tell me, because that would be fantastic. That's a great idea. Yeah, I love it. But that's what I think at the moment.
I was just going to say, when are you planning on having your first event, and is it going to be any cost? And is it targeted to everyone? Is it targeted to more like youth age people? Everyone's youthful, FYI.
We'd like to have our first one before the end of 2025. That would be the ideal. And we're sort of there. We have the plan in place. We just need the money to put it in action. The more support we can get to put this on, then the more that the ticket prices content then can go towards supporting the local projects. So the vote, it takes your money essentially and puts it in the project that you voted for. So how is it funded, did you say? Who's it aimed at? Yeah, I mean, it is open to anyone. These are going to be held in places that are open to everyone. But yeah, anyone who wants a good, fun night out with some good local food and a drink.
Sorry, really quick one. You said that the proceeds from the tickets will go towards a project. Could you name a couple of ideas of projects, or how will you come across them?
Yeah, well, I guess that's not my role, in that I'm keen to go out to the community and ask them to pitch the projects for them. I mean, we have an enormous amount of charitable organisations on the Isle of Man and lots of volunteers. They're always needing funding, as we saw in that hurdles earlier. So what we would do is put this out in the news and ask people to put in their pitches. And honestly, so long as they fit the UNESCO Biosphere principles, it would be on a first come, first served basis. And in each one, you'd get the next. If it becomes so popular that that's an unfeasible approach, fantastic. And we'll rethink at that point.
You, Sarah. Right, our penultimate pitch is from Kerry Goldie and Greg Stalker from the Outdoor Learning Centre, and they're going to be talking about the development of a creativity and well-being space.
So on Wednesday, I had the privilege to share some of the broader themes and some of the work that we're doing in the Outdoor Learning Centre. And one of the spaces that we are trying to develop is a wellbeing creativity zone. And the mission and the vision of the OLC is to reach every child. But to do that, we need a plethora of different activities and different kinds of spaces on the site. So Kiri's going to talk about the creativity and wellbeing site in a little bit more detail. But just to kind of give you some background on that space, it's one of the few flat spaces on the site. And the idea is it creates a space where individuals and groups can go and they feel kind of safe and calm. And there's opportunity to take inspiration from the world around them to be creative and be inspired and to connect with nature. So I'll just hand over to Kiri, who's leading on the project. It's her brainchild. She's an artist. She's an amazing young lady. So please encourage Kiri.
Oh, this is not mine.
Thanks for that.
That's nice. Yeah, stop the clock. There you go. No. Late for everything. So I'm Kiri and I work at the Outdoor Learning Centre. I'm also a youth worker. So I've been at the Outdoor Learning Centre for a year now, and I kind of bring the creativity into the team. I'm the only one that doesn't have the paddle boarding and kayaking and all those qualifications. I'm doing them at the minute though. So what I would like to achieve from the centre, for the centre, is to have like a creative hub where people can go and, well, kids can go and be creative in the outdoors, kind of combining the two together, where we can forage for like materials, which then we can make into creative projects. And yeah, sorry, I'm very nervous. I hate this stuff. So yes, the plan would be to, if we got more funding, would be to have a bigger area, because at the minute we've got the structure here, which is quite small. We've also made it into a bird hide as well, because we work quite closely with Manx Wildlife Trust. So it's a double whammy of creative and the nature and Yes, that's it. Sorry. So there's not that much room up there at the minute, so it would be maybe to get like more pods that we can do some one-to-one work with cams or sorry, I'm really losing it at the minute. Let me just read off the board. So the key features would be, so we've already added the bird feeders for the wildlife. We've added some bug hotels, which the kids have helped to make, and Rachel, who's in the back somewhere, did some with the kids in the summer with Manx Wildlife Trust. So yeah, we would like to get some more cozy spots that we can have an indoor space as well as outdoor, because the Isle of Man is very, you know, predictable for rain. We would like to get some like stargazing chairs so we can have like a little bit of a relaxing area for kids that maybe like me now need to run away. So yes, it would be like a combination of the well-being and biodiversity, bringing it all together in one little space. And I think it would be very nice. And here's some pictures of the artwork that we've done so far. So we went foraging for leaves and random flowers and stuff, and then we imprinted them in clay, and the kids got to take them home, and they loved it. So I don't know where I'm going, and I feel like I'm rambling on. But with some extra money, we would be able to expand what we have already, and just to be able to cater for bigger groups. And that is all. Thank you very much.
Not like this on TV.
First of all, I just want to say I thought you did a brilliant job. So you should have more confidence in yourself. Fantastic, lovely imagery as well. As you're sort of foraging, is there an educational element to how you're helping the children understand nature?
Yeah, so I guess because we work quite closely with Manx Wildlife Trust, I've also been able to pick up some advice and information from them. So I guess it's teaching them to respect nature, teaching them how to, well, I guess be outdoors more as well, because they're always on iPads and stuff now, and I don't feel like they get out enough. And it will help to for city children be able to come up to us and get that experience that maybe they can't get. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wondered how many like children you can fit in this area at any one point. Like how many children can you reach at any one time? Like how many children do you have day to day? So that was the question. See, now I'm nervous. It's okay.
Yeah.
So the centre can cater for anywhere up to 100 young people at once. But this space at the top of the site is particularly isolated and quite small, which is a good thing. We want it in a good way, because you could have lots of groups on site running around, staying around, getting muddy and setting fires and adventure course. But actually, you could have a group of between 1 and 6 probably in this space, and it would feel completely cut off and isolated to give that calming and that safe space. And because of where it is on the site, there's nothing around it other than the hills. So that well-being piece is majority just being where they are. We don't need to do anything particularly difficult other than get the kid to walk up the hill. And the rest will kind of take care of itself. But what we want to create is that space where young people are able to sit, to enjoy, to connect with each other, to connect with their youth worker or their teacher or CAMS worker or their Manx care worker or their head psych or their counsellor, and just have it as a real kind of open air space for whatever it needs to be for that child's well-being.
Just have a quick question. Wondered whether you had the secret to dealing with teenagers. How are you going to get teenagers involved?
It costs more than £2,000.
Yes. That's why.
Rather kindest dragons. Right, last but I must say not least, and I should also say that there is no particular order to these presentations, it's completely random. But our last presentation is from Alex Purdy from Alderney Wildlife, who is going to be talking about Alderney's wants and future woodland.
So I presented yesterday on a marine topic, and I'm a marine biologist. And you might wonder, what the heck is a marine biologist standing in front of a project about woodland here for? Sadly, I'm not about to announce we're having mangrove forests in Alderney. But I'm here because we believe this is one of our most exciting projects where there really is a lot of potential. The team who are leading on this couldn't be here today, but they'd absolutely love me to tell you how this amazing project is going to look to rebuild an island's woodland. So this area, which we got a very sneak preview at earlier, if you were very observant, is Vodasal Nature Reserve. It's the largest area of coastal woodland on Alderney. It's 2 hectares. That's the size of about 5 football pitches. Most of the woodland was cleared during World War II. This is what the majority of Alderney's coastline looks like. It is beautiful, and there are stunning areas of coastal heath and grassland. But unfortunately, what is happening, and we've seen the area of this double in the last decade, is things like blackthorn scrub and poor quality sycamore woodland are coming through just due to the abandonment of land through inaction. And what this means is that areas which were once incredibly diverse, such as this area, which was once a beautiful gorse and heather heath, are now becoming less biodiverse, as things like the blackthorn, which you can see swamping that heathland, are coming in simply through inaction. So our solution is to build on the 20 years of woodland creation experience we have as a wildlife trust to create Alderney's first island-scale woodland in over 2,000 years. So we want to do this in a particular way. We don't want to work against the natural forces, we want to work with them. We want to work with that natural succession to scrub, but we're going to guide it. We're going to guide it by planting native trees and doing management of invasive species. And this will develop the growth of a biodiverse and native Atlantic coastal woodland. We want to do this with landowners. We want to do this with the community. And in particular, we need to do this with business to help make the project a success, not just for us, but for you as well. And the aim will be to create a legacy, a long-lasting legacy for Alderney's community and for, of course, the landowners, and importantly, business, which delivers carbon capture, improves biodiversity, and should hopefully one day see Alderney's woodland increase by 500%. So why work with us? Well, firstly, as I said, we are building on a 20-year foundation. You know, we have planted trees before. We know what we're doing with that. We've already planted one woodland, the community woodland, which is a space which enables people in our community to go out into nature, experience a forested area and make use of it. For example, the fantastic forest school opportunities which my colleague Abby has been running for the last few years. But we think this project's different because it is at an island scale. We already have 5 major landowners on site, and for Alderney, 5 landowners, that's quite good. And we have local government engaged and positive. Furthermore, I really want to stress we are working with that natural process. That means it's going to be efficient. You know, we're working with an existing thing which is happening so we can maximize the results. Now, this is the 5-year timeline to kickstart that project, and then obviously it will progress into the future. There's a lot of words there. So really, I want to focus on where do you fit in? You know, where can you guys fit in? I've pulled up some examples here, you know, some kind of examples. For example, we need funding for trees. We need funding for workshops to bring people together, like this event today. We love corporate social responsibility events, like Kevin was talking about. But really, the crux of this project on the bottom right is investing in woodland, largely through MOU with landowners, business, and then the Wildlife Trust to ensure that areas of land are safeguarded So you can be confident that in 20, 50, 100 years' time, you're going to return and find a biodiverse native Atlantic coastal woodland. I've pulled this image up on the slide. This is a pocket of woodlands on Alderney. We don't have none, we do have some. And it's stunning. You know, we loved it when we found this little bit doing some woodland condition assessments. But this is a pocket. In 30 or 40 years' time, this might not be a pocket anymore. You know, this might cover large areas of the island. Yeah, which I just think would be incredible. So yeah, if anyone here, you know, if anyone here could ever come down to Alderney, we'd absolutely love it. We'd love if you could engage with us and we can engage with you. I think I was saying earlier, we were sad that we didn't qualify for the Aviva project with the temperate rainforest, but unfortunately we just don't have enough rain. That does mean that it's really quite nice weather, so come and visit us. Yeah. I'll leave this summary up on the screen. I would just like to say, if I made this presentation again today or tomorrow, it would be very different because of the brilliant presentations we've had and conversations we've had. So I think that's a credit to what's been done here. But yeah, thank you.
I've got a quick question, if that's okay. Just can you help me understand? At the beginning, you talked about 2 hectares.
Yes.
Just talked about sound like a massive scale. Can you just sort of square that circle? So does it start small and then get bigger?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll zoom back. So this is Voda South. So it's our largest area of coastal woodland. We do have other areas of woodland. For example, you can see on the top right of that picture, that's just the edge of that community woodland, which the Wildlife Trust started planting in around 2002. So there are other areas of woodland, but they're very disparate, and again, the majority not on the coastline. What we'd be looking to do is work in areas. So actually, great example, the valley just to the left of Voda South. This was taken about 15 years ago. It's now poor quality scrub and poor quality woodland. But if 15 years ago we'd come in there as it's starting to develop and planted native trees and worked with it, we'd be looking at actually a beautiful expanse of that Voda South area. So that's what we're aiming to do, and we'd be doing that in efficient ways. For example, using trees which then release their own seeds, etc. I am a marine biologist, so I do apologise to any arborists out there.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I'm just interested to understand how initially did you engage with the landowners, and it seems like it's a very impressive project. You know, the first I've heard from a coastal woodland perspective. Have you followed a framework, or is this something you built from bottom up? Because that would be great to share with other regions. You know, there's not necessarily a carbon crediting scheme behind it. It's just to actually remove invasive species and increase biodiversity, which I think is great.
Yeah. So Alderney is a small place, and we've largely engaged with landowners on a one-to-one basis, and that's often how the island works. So we have built that from the ground up. And largely that's bringing them in and just having conversation with them, direct conversations. I'd be more than happy to share any learnings we've gained from that. I don't have them in front of me. But yeah, it's and I think something else that I kind of skipped past it, but one of the areas we need to improve and we need to get sorted are those legal aspects of things like carbon capture, which we don't have a foundation for. So yeah, there are things for us to improve on. But
thank you.
I wanted to ask, what kind of, what's your vision for the sort of end result, and what benefits do you think it will bring to the community on Alderney as well?
Yeah. So the end result, I mean, the grand dream would be to see a 5 times or 500% increase in the woodland on Alderney, and that would be pushing towards 20 to 30% of the island, which is a significant change, and that's not something that would happen overnight and without real buy-in from the community. But really, we want to see these areas of woodland which are disparate become connected. So that obviously has huge benefits for nature. And this is being led by our State of Nature project, which has assessed our key habitats and species. And then we're using that kind of database evidence to inform these decisions. So we'd look to have a more diverse island, which can support a wider variety of species, in particular birds, which can be brought in. But like you said, benefits to the community. That's a really important part which goes with woodland. So we already have in the community woodlands lots of guided trails, and people use it for things like forest school, and also creation of a resource. So lots of people will gather firewood in the winter. We want to expand that and build on it in terms of education, woodland skills, etc., to help improve the resilience of the local community.
How are you going to keep the trees alive?
Yeah.
With no rain? Question mark.
Yeah. I wish I could say we have no rain. Actually, I don't wish that, but we do have rain. Just not quite. Not quite as much. Yeah. Essentially, but it's a really good question, because one of the key things we're going to need to be thinking about is not just getting trees which work now, but trees which will work in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, because we probably will see less rainfall. So a key part of this will be safeguarding the woodlands which exist and the new woodlands which grow, so the trees we're planting are resilient to a changing climate.
I've got one last question, sorry. What other sources of kind of funding could there be for Alderney if this wasn't, the funds went to go to you this time around?
For sure.
Is there a diverse funding pot that you can apply to?
So there's most of our funding as a wildlife trust comes from membership and donations, and that is hugely beneficial. We do have corporates on the island, some of which have been here over the last couple of days, and we'd absolutely love to work with them. And again, if anyone fancies coming down, that would be brilliant. Some of our other projects have been funded by things like SIF, which is essentially National Lottery, or other projects such as that. We also drive funding through our commercial wing.
Wow, what a set of pitches and presentations. Just to forewarn the panel, I'm going to come to you for your initial kind of thoughts in a second. Obviously, not giving anything away. But yeah, first of all, we gave them the challenge of pitching in 5 minutes and doing 5 minutes of Q&A, and they all did that perfectly. So let's just have another round of applause for all our person. And I think there was a bit of everything in there. We had a bit of marine, a bit of woodland, terrestrial, community, education, really nice mix of projects, and across all, a lot of islands as well. So there's some really good food for thought. So go on, I'll work from left to right. So Hannah, what are your initial thoughts before you go away and actually make a decision?
Coming now. There we go. First thing, just to echo your point, Graham, everyone met the brief, which was really good. So thank you very much. And very clear identification of the sort of beneficiaries. And I mean, I've got basically things that stand out on all 7. So it's going to be quite tricky because we were told we were not allowed to divide 7. There's going to be some difficult decisions, although I'm liking Catherine's style that maybe you don't get the funding this year, but you come back next year. So that's going to help too.
Thank you. Dominic, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I thought they were all fantastic, and the kind of key themes I kind of pointed out was a variety, and some of them actually encapsulated both was citizen science, third spaces, and then nature and biodiversity impact. I think just some of the thoughts I had around 4 Earth scopes, just some initial things I could offer maybe is, have you seen Geeky? It's essentially for personal tracking and business tracking. So maybe try to draw some inspiration, and if you could white label that solution for your solutions hub. It's more climate focused, but you could do it from a nature positive lens. So that's something to think about. And then I think also I'm going to steal this idea from Lee Morris, because he kind of always says that from a CSR perspective, a lot of organizations are actually willing to donate their human capital So, you know, for updating websites, business strategy, and that type of thing. So, you know, always try and engage corporates from that angle as well.
Brilliant. So, I mean, that's fantastic. You know, conservationists and the projects learning from business is exactly what this is all about. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Alice, what are your initial thoughts?
You've just made our job incredibly hard, and it's so lovely. It's my first day at the conference, and everyone has been so passionate and inspired about what they do. I go back to the feeling like a vampire. I feel so passionate when I'm going to go back to work next week, and everyone's going to be annoyed with me. But thank you so much, and I just have no thoughts. It's just all full. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Catherine, go and give us your initial views.
Well, I'm going to have to take out a loan now, aren't I? To pay all these people, these wonderful projects. I think I'd really like to see something, because we're celebrating IIEM in 25 years. I'd like to see us fund some projects that we'd be able to see the outputs and them come to fruition. So yeah, very tempted by the putting trees in the ground, but we'll have a discussion about it.
Okay, so you're looking forward to the next 30 minutes of
No, absolutely not. No.
I apologise, but that's why I chaired this and got you to be the judging panel, so I didn't have to do that. Right, photography, I just want to say thank you very much to our panel. If you have a round of applause, then we'll do that. And because we're about to go into a coffee break, so we can have a bit of a breather, I just want to point out our marine officer has made it back from the maritime event in London. So anyone that was waiting to speak to Lara, our marine officer, she is here. And I also want to say that all the photos in the background of the holding slides that we've done, as it says in the corner there, Lara Half Photography, are her photos. And speaking of photos, can someone just stick their head out the door and see if it's raining? It's tradition at IIEM to get a group photo of everyone. It's not raining. So before I let everyone have a cup of tea or coffee, I'm going to take one like this. Smile. And then can I ask everyone to go out onto the balcony, and we will take a group photo of everyone. So if we stand at the balcony facing back towards the door, and then I will let you have a coffee. Thank you.